Hey everyone, I'm Travis. I'm the founder and executive director of TechCongress. And if you're watching this, I'm guessing that's because you are interested in our managing director or deputy director role at TechCongress. And so, first, I want to just say thank you for your interest and for taking the time to watch this. I wanted to put together a video with some background on the role and on TechCongress because in my experience applying for jobs, sometimes you don't know a lot about the job or a lot about the organization. And so I wanted to provide a little bit of context and background in the event that that would help folks. And so at Tech Congress, we recruit, train, place, and support computer scientists, engineers, and other technologists to go into Congress and spend a year through our fellowships supporting on tech policy work through our Congressional Innovation Fellowships. And this is a program I built 9 years ago. I built it because I'd worked in Congress for 6 years before that, and I needed it when I was a staffer. We were in 2012 and 2013 voting on cybersecurity legislation, CISPA, and I had to make a vote recommendation to my then boss, Representative Henry Waxman. And I found myself really underwater trying to wrap my head around some of the key technology that would inform that vote recommendation. Things like personally identifiable information. What does it mean for a company to anonymize data? And what I found was that there wasn't anyone in Congress that could answer those questions for me. So I started Tech Congress, and we've been at this for 9 years to try and solve that problem. And our goal is to build a critical mass of technologists within Congress and then step away, put ourselves out of business. We want to baseline upskill the institution and to galvanize Congress to solve this problem for itself. And we do this principally through our fellowships. It's no secret, obviously, that Congress has some challenges understanding technology. But the good news about Congress is that it's a tiny, tiny place. So you start out with there are only 3,500 staff, full stop, that touch legislation, that touch policy. For those that are senior enough that they matter and have an impact, and that also touch the tech side of things, that number is really around 600 staff. So our theory of change is like Megan Smith, the CTO in the Obama administration. We want one of those individuals when a bill is being authored, when a issue is moving. We want one of the individuals involved in that to be a technologist. So for us, that's about 10% of that 600, and that gets us to 60. We want 60 technologists sitting in senior staffing roles across Congress. We can principally achieve that by converting our fellows into full-time staffing roles in Congress, but there are also a variety of ways that we can support the institution and its work to build tech capacity. And that's a huge part of this deputy director or managing director role as well, thinking about how outside of the core fellowship we can supplement our work and support Congress in improving its tech capacity. So the fellows are tremendous. They are phenomenal. We've had 95 to date. You don't know it, but you've seen their work. To name a couple recent accomplishments, the hearing with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman from about 6 months ago was organized by one of our alumni. Of the all of the AI policy bills introduced in Congress so far, two-thirds have been authored or co-authored by our fellows or alumni. The Frances Haugen Facebook whistleblower, that investigation and those sets of hearings were managed by one of our alumni. And the House of Representatives has a digital service. This is the first digital service in a legislature in the United States. This is because we had a tremendous team of digital service fellows deploy, led by one of our alumni, Liesl Bogan, in the depths of COVID when Congress was figuring out how to operate in the remote environment. And they deployed and spent about a year in Congress and served as proof of concept for this now permanent digital service. So we're really, really proud of their accomplishments to date, and we need to build on those. So I also want to tell you a little bit about myself, about this person that is running Tech Congress, because that's maybe helpful. And I am the child of two civil servants. And my dad, in particular, he spent his career in government working on improving and protecting marginalized communities on clean water and clean air. He spent his career in environmental policy in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And he did that because he grew up in poverty in St. Louis. He never knew his dad. And at the age of 15, he came home from high school one day and his mom wasn't there. And she wasn't there the next day, and she wasn't there the day after that, or the day after that. And about 3 weeks in, one of his teachers noticed that something was wrong. And she was able to find some of his relatives in North Carolina and help him get to North Carolina, where he finished out high school, ultimately went to college, served his country in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, was service disabled after Vietnam, and then spent the rest of his career working in government. And I tell you this story because the schools in inner city St. Louis in the 40s and 50s, they were good. The public schools were good. And when government works, it saves lives. And government, that local government, St. Louis, my dad's teacher, Mrs. Fish, she saved his life. And right now, government is not working for huge swaths of America and Americans, and it has to, because there are people that are depending on it. And at Tech Congress, we are trying to solve a small piece of why we think government isn't working, and that's government's ability to grapple with and understand how technology is reshaping society. And that is why we do this work. That is why I do this work. And we do this work also with two core values in mind. First is that diversity, equity, and inclusion are core to what we do. I am proud that we have baked DEI into our work from day one. We always have room for improvement, but it is central to every activity we have. Second is that ideological diversity is our core to what we do as well, and we see the impact of that. We have fellows that work for conservative Republicans and liberal Democrats, and they work together, and that doesn't happen as much as it used to in Congress, and it doesn't happen enough. And so we see the success of that with our fellows, and that is really core and central to what we do. So why now? Well, we placed 24 fellows in Congress this year. We placed 23 last year, and that's as big as we'll get. That's peak saturation for Congress. Of those fellows that we've placed, 23 have been hired on full time in Congress, and we have dozens of others that are in the broader public sector, many in the executive branch in different agencies, others in nonprofits and civil society organizations. And so what we're doing, it's working. And what we're looking for in the managing director or deputy director role is two core things for Tech Congress over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Number one is to reflect on and then refine the work that we're doing in Congress. And number two is to figure out how we can grow this work. And we have lots of ideas for how to do that. We have thoughts about and a lot of research over the last year about what it would look like to grow to state legislatures. And we also think there's a really great opportunity potential to help train congressional staff. So those are just two early ideas, and the linchpin to our growth is this role, is this deputy director or managing director role. So a couple of the core needs for the organizations right now, and the core goal for this new role. First, to take over day-to-day management of the congressional fellowship, and take ownership of it, from me. And then take ownership of one to two components of the five sort of core areas of our programmatic work, which are recruitment, selection, orientation, placement, and then ongoing support of the fellows. Our senior program manager, Alina Khan, has been owning all five of these areas of work. We've got to build a distribution of labor, and we're working to do that. And the deputy director or managing director will take on one to two areas of this work. Second thing is to serve as the primary contact for congressional staff for our engagement with Congress. I want to be doing much more here, and to be out in the world with partner organizations working on enhancing Congress. The third core thing is to help us continue to supplement the core fellowship in Congress. Every year, every cycle, we add on additional supports, and we need to continue that. And then we also need to test new models for growth outside of the core fellowship, including potential additional programs in Congress, and state legislatures. So qualifications for the role, they're on the website. So I'm not going to name them, but I will say this is an entrepreneurial role. We are looking for builders and problem solvers. I believe to my core that is what Washington needs more of. If you've got a track record of successfully taking initiative, and you want to create and build and be super collaborative among the team and with other partners, we want you. And I want you to apply. This is a really nimble team. It's a really flexible team, and it's a really fun team. It's an entrepreneurial team. We need more builders in Washington, and we want more builders on this team. Other mechanics of how the fellowship works, of how TechCongress works, I'm not going to talk through those because we've got a lot of resources on the website. I will say, especially if you advance to the interview portion for for this role, I want to encourage you to listen to some of our informational calls about the fellowship, because we've got a lot of the details about how the fellowship works in those informational calls. And so I want to encourage you to use that as a resource. In addition, the blog stretches back all the way to 2015 and the origins of TechCongress, including the crowdfunding that we did. And so that's a really good resource for you for more information about TechCongress and the programs. You're seeing also, we've got two roles posted. We've got a role for we've got a managing director role, and we've got a deputy director role. The key difference between those, the managing director role, you need to have some experience in operations, finance, or accounting, or management of operations, finance, and accounting staff to be eligible for that role. The deputy director role is just programs. Managing director role also has programs sitting under it. We're only going to hire for one role because we're waiting to see what kind of applicants we get. So we will only hire a deputy director or a managing director, but you should pick the role that you're best suited for and apply for that. A couple other things that really matter, obviously, for candidates and for us: pay. We believe in pay transparency, really trying to model practices of equity and be a model nonprofit here, and practice what we preach. So the salary range is 100K to 160K, and that depends on the deputy director role versus the managing director role. A note about the benefits also, they're tremendous. They really are. You get 30 days of PTO starting in year two. In year one, it's 20 days of PTO. It's quite literally the best healthcare plan available to us. It's a platinum level plan through a broker that includes vision. It includes dental. The 401k, we contribute 9% without any match required from you to your 401k. We've got a paid parental leave policy that we're building right now, a sabbatical policy after 5 years that we're also building right now. The office is closed for all federal holidays. That includes Juneteenth, that includes Veterans Day. Office is closed the week between Christmas and New Year's. We have early closure on Fridays in the summer. Time off, I really believe is sacred. I don't and won't email you after hours or on weekends or on vacation unless it's an absolute emergency. And I'm going to expect you to do the same for me because I believe in work-life balance. It's how I'm able to sustain myself and wake up motivated each day. And so that's really, really important to this organization as well. We've got really flexible remote work policies. Currently, we're in the office 2 days a week. That includes opportunities to work outside of Washington. If you want to spend a week with your parents or want to spend a week working remotely, we're able to do that. We are leasing office space from New America, I think Tank in DC, and our original home, so we can have colleagues and collaborators, and it's a really nice office environment for when we're in the office. A couple other things to name: we've got a $1,500 annual professional development stipend, $500 annual wellness benefit. We pay for a one medical subscription if you want it. Again, we're working really hard to be a model nonprofit here. So, last thing, I will just say a note on imposter syndrome. I want to encourage you to apply. Even if you think you might not meet all of the qualifications, but you think you might be a good fit. I say this to you because we say this to our fellows. We say this during recruitment. Imposter syndrome can prevent really great people from applying, and we don't want to miss out on working with you just because you might not have all the experience that's outlined in the job description. So even if you're on the fence, I hope you'll apply. The last 3.5 years and the time during the pandemic, they make clear to me and probably make clear to you too that life is short, and we don't do this work just for work's sake. I truly believe we have the opportunity to do important things and to change the lives of our fellows and to make a greater impact on Washington and the rest of society. So I hope you will consider joining us. This is important work. We are right at a pivot point. The model is working, and we need to figure out a way to scale it. And this role and finding support for the rest of the team. It's an amazing team. It is the linchpin to this. So that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this gave you a little bit more context and insight into TechCongress and to me and to the team and what we hope to accomplish and why we want you to be part of it. So thanks so much, and we hope to see your application. Have a great day, and have a happy holidays if you're watching this before the holidays.